It always surprises me that not more people know of Emmy Noether. I mean, I think she's probably the greatest mathematician we've ever had. As a young woman in mathematics, it's hard not to be inspired by Emmy Noether and her courage and everything she did for the field was facing the challenges she did. No one can do physics without Emmy Noether.
She was 2 years older than me, helping her father around the house and playing piano while we worked away. Me, a lowly doctoral student, my supervisor, and occasionally his daughter. Dancing also. Emmy loved to dance. Her hair would come undone and her glasses would fall down her face, but she took no notice. She was always like that. If she got caught up in discussion at dinner, she would gesture so wildly, her food would fall off her fork and onto the table. But though she was playful and friendly and confident, she had this intensity too. A way of silently joining ideas together, like she was on a journey to somewhere the rest of us couldn't follow. You know, the weakest part of her school record was actually her classroom teaching. Laughable in hindsight, perhaps. Certainly just because we were drawn to her intensity, it didn't mean we could always understand where she was going. Luckily, the year before she was due to start as an English and French teacher, women were allowed to audit courses at the university. Not participate, just watch. To be clear, the general opinion at the time was,
surrendering our universities to the invasion of women is a shameful display of moral weakness.
It was her and one other woman, and every class they would come in and sit. Not participating. But she never seemed to resent this, just let the noise around her fade out and the mathematics cut through. I admired her restraint. If anything, I admire it more now. It must have been terribly difficult to have such a love for mathematics and be constrained to watch as others solve the problems around you. She left Erlangen for 1 semester at the University of Göttingen to Minkowski, Schwarzschild, Hilbert, Klein, the beating heart of mathematics. She then returned to Erlangen to help her father and his students. Now, you have to understand that for us, the process was simple. Undergraduate to postgraduate, and after a presentation on your doctorate, the paid position of Privatdozenten, or associate professor. But women were forbidden from habilitating. And I saw its victims up close. Emmy was confined to supervising her father's students, including me. Even then, she revolutionized my thesis. I thanked her on the last page. I am very grateful to Fraulein Dr. Noether in Erlangen for entrusting me with this topic and for her manifold advice and assistance with its processing. But we all knew she was wasted in Erlangen. So did she. In 1914, she wrote 2 letters.
Dear Professor Hilbert and Professor Klein, I'm sending you a paper entitled Fields and Systems of Rational Functions, with a request that it be included in the annals. The introduction will provide an overview of the paper's content. I also gave an overview of the questions and results in my Vienna lecture on rational fields of functions. Dear Professor Hilbert and Professor Klein, in the note sent to my father yesterday on the invariance of a system of arbitrarily many basic forms, you expressed the conjecture that these invariants could be represented entirely and rationally by the finitely many invariants of the system. In it, I show which of the basic properties of Zermelo's domain are conditioned by the specific construction and which are consequences of the abstract definition in order to derive the most general construction. With best regards, yours sincerely, Emmy Noether.
Ah, Fraulein Dr. Noether.
Thank you ever so much for your kind welcome.
Of course, I do hope the journey was not too taxing. We have organised an office for you within the faculty, just down the corridor, lecture hall 16.
Thank you ever so much, I'll take a look
Although
now.
I am afraid that the matter of habilitation is still outstanding.
There has been some unfortunate tension from the head of the faculty on this matter, but we are able to award you the title of assistant lecturer rather than professor. And please do be assured that we have escalated the matter with the hope to have you habilitated within the month.
I understand. Should I be preparing a habilitation thesis?
I would suggest that we wait until the application has been fully processed, but for now, you should have everything you need to continue your research, and teaching should ensue with your successful habilitation. Congratulations.
Thank you. What does it mean for something to be symmetrical? Take a shape, an object, anything, we call it a system. Apply some sort of change to the system, maybe you flip it or rotate it. If the system looks the same after doing this, that means the system has symmetry under this operation. Let's use a cube as our system. Rotate the cube about its edge by 90 degrees and the end product looks the same. The cube has symmetry under this operation. It turns out there are 24 different operations which can be applied to a cube which preserve its symmetry. 8 rotations about its edges. 9 rotations about the center of its faces. 6 rotations about its diagonals. Finally, the original cube itself. We call these symmetries discrete. Each operation is finite, unique, jagged, but there's a different type of symmetry. A continuous symmetry, a beautiful, slow symmetry. Instead of a cube, let's use a sphere as our system. Rotate the sphere about its center by 90 degrees and the end product looks the same. Or rotate it 45 degrees, 20 degrees, 1 degree or half a degree. There are an infinite number of tiny rotations which can be applied to give the same sphere. So our system has an infinite number of operations which preserve its symmetry. This is a continuous symmetry.
Hilbert and Klein fought tirelessly for her habilitation, but with very little success. Fraulein Dr. Noether had already proven the mathematics that would later constitute Noether's theorem. If she were any other mathematician, surely this would be enough.
At the time, it felt like all eyes were on Noether. Some saw her as this singular phenomenon, an outlier. They saw a woman in a sea of men and wondered how long it would last. For others, like me, she was a potential turning point. I was one of only a few girls admitted to my high school and would go on to study mathematics myself at Göttingen in 1921. But back to 1915, when we watched on, willing her to succeed. On the 20th of July 1915, Dr. Noether applied directly to the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences for the admission to habilitation, with a habilitation thesis.
Körper und Systeme rationaler Funktion.
The committee members were then tasked with writing reports to assess the suitability of Dr. Noether to be habilitated. They submitted these on the 8th of August 1915. Four committee members discussed Noether's exceptional abilities. Konstantin Karatheodori.
According to me, it is not to be expected that there exists anyone else in the entire world who is accessible to us and who could substitute for Fraulein Noether.
Edmund Landau, who, despite being against the habilitation of women, claims that Noether deserves the position.
How simple it may be if it were a man with the exact same publications, the same talent to lecture, and the same serious ambition. I prefer it very much if we could extend our curriculum without the required habilitation of a lady.
The way things are, Fraulein Noether is a singular phenomenon who can be beneficial to the further scientific development of the university, and this is the main reason why I, ignoring everything else, approve for the other parts of the habilitation.
It seems Noether's mathematical talents have superseded the committee's old-fashioned views on women.
Until now, I've only had the most negative experiences regarding the productive achievements of studious ladies. And I consider the female brain incapable of mathematical production. I consider Fraulein Noether an exception.
And finally, Hilbert, who had invited Noether to Göttingen in the first place, focuses solely on her mathematics, not the fact she's a woman.
The candidate demonstrates her versatile finesse in her recently finished work on completely transcendental numbers by applying form-theoretical methods to seemingly very remote questions.
Habilitating a woman into the mathematical faculty endangers the fundamentals on which our nation's society is built. If Germany is now capable of standing up against a world of enemies, that is because our German women and mothers have focused their talents on bringing up a strong cohort of sons. Every step that extends the equality of the woman and facilitates her new independence of lifestyle brings dangers to the family
Hartman,
life.
you must consider the candidate's mathematical
familial
capacities.
tasks, which nobody else can do when they get interested in academic work. In particular, it seems impossible to reconcile the uninterrupted teaching of our students with the responsibilities of a married woman. It is definitely not in the interest of our
Fraulein
youth
Dr.
when,
Noether is
in
as of
particular,
yet
intellectually
unmarried.
talented
And even
women
if
are
she
drawn
were to have
away
a family,
from
she is
family
far
life.
too valuable a
And
mind
yet,
to
by
be so
objective
blatantly cast
standards,
aside
a
by
woman is
your
totally unsuited to the
limitations, Hartman.
responsibilities of teaching due to the phenomena relating to the female organism.
For goodness sake! This is a university, not a bathhouse!
The first vote takes place within the habilitation committee itself. They overwhelmingly vote in favour of allowing Noether to habilitate. The matter is then escalated to the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences. Ten vote in favour of allowing for an exception for Noether, 7 against and 2 abstain. The whole university across the faculties of mathematics, natural sciences, philosophy and history start a final vote. Should Emmy Noether be allowed to exceptionally habilitate? It's tied, with 14 votes in favour and 14 against. Landau, as the head of mathematics, has the deciding vote. Despite the committee's voting in favour of allowing Noether to habilitate, the head of the university attaches a negative letter of recommendation, suggesting that the ministry reject her application.
Our verdict is that Fraulein Dr. Noether does not gain the habilitation. However, we do not object to the presence of Fraulein Dr. Noether within the faculty. Our recommendation is that she assist Professor Hilbert with teaching at Göttingen.
Benjamin!
Jakob, late as always.
Sorry, I've been in the lab all day. I had to restart my spectroscopy halfway through.
I'm glad we don't have to do that round here.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm in better health now, thank God. How are you? How's your mother? How's Asha?
Yeah, they're all good. I hope you know I have very high expectations for this. You mentioned she was your supervisor.
Yes. Fraulein Dr. Noether is a phenomenal lecturer. We'll get you out those labs in no time.
If I think back to the madness of that time, her tenacity is what still strikes me. She had this remarkable ability to keep working. Even when the rooms of Göttingen seemed to shake with the arguments of the faculty around her, she retained composure. No, not composure. A sort of poise that facilitated an astounding grasp of mathematics. Or maybe it was that the mathematics spoke through her. During her time at Göttingen, one of her biggest contributions was helping Professor Hilbert in his correspondence with Einstein on the field of general relativity.
I fully agree with the substance of your statements on energy theorems. Emmy Noether, whom I called on over a year ago for clarificatory purposes, found at that time that the energy components that I had proposed, as well as those of Einstein, included in my first note, develop into expressions whose divergence vanishes identically. Now, my energy law is probably related to yours. I have already assigned this question to Miss Noether. As concerns your objections, however, you must consider the boundary cases. For brevity, I give you the enclosed paper by Miss Noether. Your explanation of the equation in your paper delighted me. Why must you make it so hard for poor mortals by withholding the technique behind your ideas? It surely does not suffice for the thoughtful reader if, although able to verify the direction of your argument, he cannot have a clear view of the analysis.
There are still severe concerns in academic circles regarding the habilitation of women as private lecturers. Since the matter can only be decided generally, I cannot permit exemptions. Even if this causes certain hardships in individual cases.
Fraulein Dr. Noether had initiated a second habilitation attempt, this time by applying directly to the ministry, only to be rejected again. At this time, all eyes were on Göttingen. They had one of the best mathematicians in the world, restless. Following their correspondence on the use of invariance in general relativity, Einstein finally vocalized his support in Noether's habilitation.
When I received the new work by Miss Noether, I considered it a great injustice that she has denied the habilitation. I would very much favour that we take an energetic step at the ministry. If you do not consider this to be possible, then I will try it on my own. Sadly, I have to travel for a month. I very much ask you to send me a short reply for when I return. If anything needs to be done sooner, then please have disposal over my signature.
His support in Noether's career rightly managed to make some of the more traditional members of Göttingen hesitate in their convictions. And even outside of academic circles, I remember there was a growing sense of change.
As of this date, the 14th of January 1919, according to the new Weimar Constitution, all Germans are equal in front of the law, and thus, in principle, men and women have the same rights and obligations.
The introduction of democracy and the equal right to vote gave new motivation to the unsung minds of mathematical institutions across the country. I felt real hope for the future, however fleeting that feeling was. It seems naive now to have thought the Constitution would really improve Germany. But the change at least made room for the idea that Noether's habilitation might now be successful.
The applicant's wish to renew the previously rejected application was supported by the Department of Mathematics and Natural Sciences with an overwhelming majority in its meeting on the 31st of January 1919, and they therefore allow Fraulein Dr. Emmy Noether to exceptionally habilitate.
Even then, the department did not wish to trigger a general decision on allowing women careers as lecturers.
But, as before, it justified its application with the exceptionally high mathematical talent and scientific performance of the applicant.
During her time at Göttingen, I'm confident that Noether not only satisfied the department's hopes on her effectiveness, but surpassed them. She was without a doubt in the first class of scientifically producing mathematicians, and she made, through her research and through her personal relationships, an incredible influence on the whole circle of mathematicians at Göttingen, and indeed the world.
Excuse me, Fraulein Doctor. My name is Jakob Levitsky. I study chemistry. I know Benjamin. Benjamin,
Benjamin, of course. Good to meet you, Jakob.
I know your class is very full, Fraulein, but I was wondering if there was space for another student.
Of course. I should warn you, my position here is not the most stable, Levitsky.
Oh, I see.
But I should also let you know I don't aim to let that affect my teaching. You're here for the mathematics.
Not the politics. Thank you, Fraulein.
Thursday, Levitsky. Systems. I'll send you some reading. The state of a system can be thought of as the position it is in at a specific point in time. Its position is described by coordinates. Our goal is to solve for the path taken by a system between 2 points the state of the system at some initial time, t1, and its state at some final time, t2. The path followed is found by minimizing a quantity called the action. The action is defined as the integral of a function called the Lagrangian. In general, the Lagrangian is a function of the energy of the system, often described as the difference between the kinetic and potential energy. Let's return to continuous symmetries. Remember, a system has continuous symmetry when an infinite number of operations can be applied and still leave it unchanged. If there is a continuous symmetry in the Lagrangian under some operation, it can be shown that this leads to an associated conserved quantity. A continuous symmetry in the Lagrangian leads to the conservation of a physical quantity. This is my first theorem. Noether's first theorem.
Professor Noether's lectures themselves. Well, we had seen her run Hilbert's classes, but that was nothing quite compared to how she commanded the lecture theatre. She spoke quickly and demanded great concentration.
Let's start with an example.
There you were in her world, surrounded by numbers and letters and theorems and equations.
If there is a continuous symmetry in the Lagrangian under the operation of rotation,
A warmth of shared understanding and pure knowledge in the midst of that intangible vitality.
that means this system.
These lectures were unique moments in time, precious in their spontaneity and novelty. Considered too difficult to follow by many, but those dedicated flourished in her enthusiasm and gravitated towards her.
Is everyone following?
Professor Noether was much more than a lecturer to us. After class, we would often go back to her apartment and sample the infamous pudding a la Noether, discussing group theory until the sweet remnants had dried in our bowls. Weekends were spent on long, algebra-laden, rambling walks in the woods. And we came to know Emmy personally, as a friend, a mother hen of sorts. During lectures, her hair flew out of her pins, and her dress was dishevelled. But she did not care.
Professor Noether, how have you been? I hope Göttingen is treating you well. Is there anything that you need?
No, I'm just looking over my lecture. I think I can make my derivation of the inertia tensor more straightforward.
Ah, I see. Let's have a look.
I'd like to thank you for all your help over the years.
There's never been a question in my mind whether you should teach here. How are you liking your new students?
Wonderful. So enthusiastic. Actually, I had a student just now come asking to swap for my class.
Not from mine, I hope.
A chemistry student.
Ah, perhaps unsurprising. I suppose that gives you another paper to mark. Don't tell me you enjoy it. I mean, the hours I put into this morning's class alone, and don't get me started on Weber,
I love the teaching. The planning, the explaining, the marking, all of it.
After spending a vaguely disappointing year of graduate study at Chicago, I was searching for a first-class mathematics department. I found it when I arrived in Göttingen in 1931. Hermann Weyl, for example, lectured widely on algebraic topology and on differential geometry and on the philosophy of mathematics, though I never was convinced by his assertion that set theory involves too much sand. Edmund Landau lectured there as well. He had been there for over 20 years. By 1932, German politics were turbulent. There were street battles in Berlin between Nazi troopers and communist groups. Hitler's speeches and pictures appeared everywhere. The propaganda was everywhere you looked. I remember my landlady in Göttingen used to regularly provide me with evening tea and talk, and I watched her convert over 2 weeks from mild conservative views to ardent Nazi discipleship. I wrote to my mother about what I saw. March 10th, 1933. I wrote a lot about propaganda. I'd never before seen what propaganda could do to alter public opinion, but by the time I left Germany in August of that year, I felt so misled I didn't know what was actually going on in the world. In a second, undated letter, I was worried my mail might be censored. I remember I was particularly concerned about my copy of Das Kapital, and I went to the effort of carefully hiding it in a drawer under some shirts. They weren't exactly unfounded fears. There was a book burning in Göttingen on May 10th, 1933. At the same time, the copies of the Literary Digest, which my mother sent me, were no longer allowed to come.
Article 3. Civil servants who are not of Aryan descent are to be retired. If they are honorary officials, they are to be dismissed from their official status.
To the external lecturer, Professor Fraulein Dr. Emmy Noether in Göttingen. True copy of the report from August 7th, 1933. Please note and carry out. The wages of Fraulein Emmy Noether must be ceased as of end of September 1933. Dismissal awaits all those officials who are not at every time completely committed to the National Socialist state.
The effect on the Mathematical Institute was drastic. Current Noether and Bernstein were immediately dismissed on April 25th. On April 27th, so were Bernet, Hertz, and Louis. It is rather hard on the mathematics, I wrote on May 3rd, and we have but the cold comfort that it is the best thing for the folk. Landau was never officially dismissed, but when he started to lecture again in the winter semester of that year, students organized a complete boycott of his lecture. 70 brown shirts stood at the door and prevented anyone from entering.
In my opinion, Fraulein Dr. Noether is a first-class mathematician. Indeed, she is the greatest living mathematician in the world. Through hard work and sacrifice, she has done an incredible amount for mathematics and for her numerous students.
Apparently,
Many of her students
people
live
in Germany
here
have
in
no
Holland
conception
and
of
gratefully
the
acknowledge
outrage
the amount
over
that they
this
learned
in
under
those
her.
foreign countries friendly
In
toward
both
Germany.
the research field
This
that
is
she
not a matter of
explores and the
Jews
lively
being beaten
questions
up
that
here
she
or there
poses.
by
She is
misguided youth.
inspired
What is
by
happening
the
here
enthusiasm
is the
of
official
mathematics
authorities
within her
themselves
own students.
cause the
As she has
utmost
never had
anger
any
among us,
political
the
influence
French
on
Germany.
Fraulein Dr.
This
Noether
is
is
the
the
reason
first
why
class
we need
mathematician.
to see
scientific
Fraulein
personality
Dr.
and
Teach again,
as
as
well
what
as
is
in
unique
themselves.
in
She has
all
held
of
on to
Germany.
methods and without further contact.
It would be a great scandal if such a powerful figure were lost due to racial prejudice. I have never been ashamed of Germany, nor of my parentage, though I would be now if I were not convinced that what is happening is completely contrary to the essence of the German people's soul.
I write regarding the case of Fräulein Noether, who was fired under Article 3 due to her Jewish heritage. Although I am aware of Fräulein Noether's scientific importance, I refrain in this regard from commenting on the expert opinions herewith enclosed from a number of competent authorities. From a political point of view, to my knowledge, Fräulein Noether has stood on Marxist ground from the time of the Revolution of 1918 to the present day. And although I hold it for possible that her political views are more theoretical than conscious and practical, I do believe with certainty that her sympathies so strongly favour a Marxist political worldview that she cannot be expected to stand up wholeheartedly for the national state. So with all due respect for the scientific importance of Fräulein Noether, I am unable to support her.
Thank you very much for your most kind letter. Still, the matter is much less unfortunate for me than for many others. First, I have a small savings. I was never entitled to a pension. I'm still collecting a salary, so I can wait until the definitive decision, or a little longer. In the meantime, the faculty will do what it can to prevent termination. The success of that, though, is quite doubtful at the moment. Finally, Vial told me that a few weeks ago, he'd written to Princeton where he still has contacts. Vial thinks something could open up over time. This do not teach until further notice is quite catastrophic here at the Institute. I'm reading your lectures with great pleasure. I think that once in a while I'll invite the Noether boys over to my apartment to talk about them. Greta, welcome. Please take a seat. We'll be talking about hypercomplex numbers. I'd like you to help with the introduction. Saunders, Otto.
Professor, I read the papers that you recommended.
Great. We'll talk about that next class.
Yeah, so a hypercomplex number is an extension of the real and the...
Carry on.
I can wait until he's...
It's just Ernst. I'll catch up. So.
A hypercomplex number is an element...
Take a seat, Ernst. Carry on.
Sorry. A hypercomplex number is an element of the unitary finite dimensional algebra over the real numbers. although not necessarily associative or computative. I believe
I just think that it's outrageous.
almost a decade ago now you wrote a paper about the link between hypercomplex numbers and using them to represent the new theory of groups, which I find...
You have heard from Davenport that I want to go to Oxford for a term after Christmas. In the meantime, I received another offer for a research professorship at Bryn Mawr for a year, 1933 to 34, which I accepted for the following, 1934 to 35. I haven't got a response from Oxford yet, but I doubt the postponement. I can't very well be in Oxford and America at the same time. I doubt it would cause any issues. It's a joint fellowship from Rockefeller and the Committee in Aid of Displaced German Scholars. Bryn Mawr is, by the way, another women's college. But as Veblen later wrote me, it's the best of these. It's also so close to Princeton. I can come over often. It took a little while for Miss Noether to settle in here at Bryn Mawr. She actually had all her furniture shipped over from Germany, which I think made her feel quite at home, especially with her massive desk. I think it was quite a shock to only teach women. There's one moment in particular I remember with absolute clarity, out walking in the fields. She was immersed in mathematical discussion and went merrily along, all of us walking at a good clip. We got closer and closer to the fence. I was apparently the weak sister, concerned mostly in how we would handle the fence. For those of us in our 20s, it would be no problem, but from my point of view, how would this old woman, 50-ish, handle the fence? On we went right up to the fence without missing a word in her argument. She climbed between the rails and on we went. She kept in close contact with other scholars from Göttingen, writing this letter to a close friend, Pavel Alexandrov, after a year of teaching. I hope we will meet in Princeton in the meantime. I play there once a week. It's actually a Göttingen rendezvous. The level of the faculty there is, of course, much higher than here. But insofar as the students are concerned, the difference between male and female does not seem to be as great as I originally thought. My 3 girls, one of whom is a lecturer, are reading Vidi Werden enthusiastically. An enthusiasm which goes so far that they're doing all the exercises in it. An amazing feminine thing which to some extent frightens me. Next year we'll see an increase in the female contingent. They'll have truly American and Emmy Noether fellowship for a McDuffie student who apparently knows something about algebra and number theory. In addition, Miss Towski will probably get a foreign fellowship, and an Orr student a local fellowship. Miss Noether taught me for 2 years at Bryn Mawr, advising my doctoral thesis on the construction of a normal basis in a separable normal extension field.
I consider it a duty at this hour to articulate the feelings of your German colleagues, those who are here with us and those in your homeland who have held true to our goals and to you as a person. I find it apt, too, that your native language be heard at your graveside.
In April 1935, Miss Noether was hospitalized, requiring an operation to remove a tumor.
The language of your innermost sentiments and in which you thought your thoughts and which we hold dear, whatever power may reign on German soil. Your final rest will be in foreign soil, in the soil of this great hospitable nation that offered you a place to carry on your work after your own country closed its doors on you.
I got a call from her close friend, Mrs. Wheeler, the next afternoon.
When, at this hour, I think of what made you who you were, 2 things come immediately to mind. The first is the original productive force of your mathematical thinking. Like a too ripe fruit, it seemed to burst through the shell of your humanness. You were at once instrument of and receptacle for an intellectual force that surged forth from within you. You were not of clay, harmoniously shaped by God's artistic hand, but a piece of primordial rock into which he breathed creative genius.
Her death has shed a deep gloom over us all, but it ought to make you and Mrs. Wheeler happy to know that a few weeks ago she remarked to Professor Veblen that the last year and a half had been the very happiest in her whole life, as she had been appreciated at Bryn Mawr and at Princeton, as she had never been appreciated in her own country.
I had to tell the rest of the girls in the dormitory the news.
The second is that your heart knew no malice. You did not believe in evil. Indeed, it never occurred to you that it could play a role in the affairs of man.
It turns out that before leaving for our operation, she'd written a list of her dearest items and who they should go to. Grace got a letter, a necklace. Olga a brooch, and the Dedekind book from her library. She had even written a letter confirming that my thesis was suitable for my doctorate, the day before she was hospitalized.
This was never brought home to me more clearly than in the last summer we spent together in Göttingen, the stormy summer of 1933. In the midst of that terrible struggle and upheaval that was going on around us in all factions, in a sea of hate and violence, of fear and desperation and dejection, you went your own way, pondering the challenges of mathematics with the same industriousness as before. When you were not allowed to use the Institute's lecture halls, you gathered your students in your own home. Even those in their brown shirts were welcome. Never for a second did you doubt their integrity. Without regard for your own fate, open-hearted, without fear, always conciliatory, you went your own way. Many of us believed an enmity had been released in which there could be no pardon, but you remained untouched by it all. You were happy to go back to Göttingen last summer, where, as if nothing had happened, you lived and worked alongside German mathematicians striving for the same goals. You planned on doing the same this summer. Many will be deeply moved by your passing, none more so than your brother Fritz, who, separated from you by half the globe, was unable to be here today.
I know from your words that my sister felt very much at home here at Bryn Mawr, and that Bryn Mawr had become an absolute substitute for everything she had to leave behind in her homeland. I also see from your reports how well you all knew her, her idiosyncrasies and that unbreakable optimism that she evidently held on to till the last hours. Painful that it is to us that she is no longer here with us, the greatest satisfaction remains that she was able to continue living and working in her ideas until the moment that her thinking stopped, without her becoming aware of it.
We do not know what death is, but is it not comforting to think that souls will meet again after this life on earth, and how your father's soul will greet you? Has any father found in his daughter a worthier successor, great in her own right? You were torn from us in your creative prime. Your sudden departure, like the echo of a thunderclap, is still written on our faces. But your work and your disposition will long keep your memory alive, in science and amongst your students, friends, and colleagues. Farewell then, Emmy Noether, great mathematician and great woman. Though decay take your mortal remains, we will always cherish the legacy you left us.
This awakened so many memories. I see lecture hall 16 on the second floor of the Göttingen auditorium. Emmy Noether stands at the blackboard, head bent, thinking. Sitting in front of her, intensely involved, is a small crowd of listeners to which you and I also belong. Even back then, when I became the assistant to my other Göttingen teacher, the philosopher Leonard Nelson, Emmy Noether said to me grudgingly, after my exams, so after studying mathematics for 4 years, she suddenly discovers her philosophical heart. I think back with joy and gratitude on this mathematically original yet so humanly warm woman, from whom I received much assistance not only in the field of mathematics, but also with some rather annoying formal examination difficulties. On the blackboard, in lecture hall 16, she wrote these many ideals, of which it was said in one of the obituaries dedicated to her after her death. You wrote your name in the history of mathematics in many small letters.